Hello, my old friends. Are you still doing all right these days? There are mornings when silence sounds different when it isn't empty, but full of something you can't name. That's how this morning began. The light was soft, the air still, and beneath it all, I could hear it, my heartbeat. Uneven, uncertain, like a drummer who'd forgotten the rhythm to a song he's played all his life. It wasn't loud, not frightening, just off. A tiny stutter in the background of an otherwise ordinary day. Thump, thump, pause, thump, thump. I sat there at the kitchen table, holding my cup of coffee, realizing I'd brewed it stronger than usual. An old habit from younger days when sleep was optional, and the hospital lights never dimmed. I used to tell patients that caffeine was harmless in moderation, but the truth is, we rarely stop at moderation. We always think we're the exception. The clock on the wall ticked in steady contrast to my heart. Tick, 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 while mine whispered, wait, wait, hurry. That dissonance filled the room like static. I set the cup down and pressed 2 fingers against my wrist. The pulse fluttered, quickened, hesitated, a tiny rebellion beneath my skin. I knew exactly what it was. A premature beat, a small arrhythmia, the kind that comes when the heart's conductor loses focus for a moment. 50 years of practice, thousands of patients. I'd felt that same skipped rhythm under countless fingertips, reassured people that it was usually harmless. It happens, I used to say, especially as we get older. But pay attention, the heart is a creature of habit. When its rhythm changes, it's trying to tell you something, and yet, here I was, sitting in the dim light of morning, listening to my own advice arrive decades late. I leaned back, closed my eyes, and counted 1, 2, 3, pause it. 2 quick beats. It's funny how the mind tries to make poetry out of worry. I thought of it like a drummer tapping his sticks against a wooden table, missing a note but finding the next measure anyway. Still, I couldn't ignore it. Not anymore. There's a difference between knowing and feeling, between theory and reality. And in that moment, I felt what my patients must have felt, that uneasy awareness that something so small could mean something so big. I looked down at the coffee cup again, still steaming, innocent, as ever, and felt a pang of regret that wasn't really about caffeine at all. It was about every restless night, every skipped walk, every time I'd told myself, I'll sleep earlier tomorrow. Tomorrow is a patient liar. The older you get, the more you realize that your body keeps score of every tomorrow. I once had a patient named Henry, 79, retired pilot, calm voice, strong handshake. He came to me for a routine checkup, said he sometimes felt his heart flutter after dinner. I ran an EKG irregular atrial rhythm, likely triggered by his 4 cups of coffee a day. 4? I asked. He grinned. It's what kept me alive up there in the sky. He tried to cut down, managed for a while. Then the habit crept back, late nights. Espresso after meals. Restless sleep. He'd always say, Doc, I can't feel anything wrong. I'm fine. Until the night his wife called me, he'd passed out in the garden. Not from a heart attack, just from a rhythm gone too fast, too long. The kind of chaos the heart can't keep up with. He survived, but barely. The arrhythmia left him tired. Smaller somehow, the kind of tired that lives inside the bones. After that, I started to hear the word rhythm differently. Not as a measurement, but as a story. Every heartbeat is a sentence the body writes without your permission. And when the punctuation changes, a pause, a rush, a skip. It's telling you that something in your story needs to be rewritten. Back in my kitchen, I sat still and listened again. The irregularity came and went, like a wave brushing against the shore. It wasn't constant. It wasn't dangerous, not yet, but it was real. And the truth is, I hadn't been kind to my rhythm lately. Too many late-night cups of coffee. Too many evenings reading medical journals until my mind hummed with static. Too many thoughts about the past. The patients, the unfinished conversations, stress, caffeine, lack of sleep. A perfect trio for an aging heart to stumble over. I reached for the stethoscope that still hangs on the wall by habit, its tubing cracked with time, placing it gently against my chest. I heard what I hadn't in years, my own heartbeat, close and personal, magnified through memory. Lub-dub, lub-dub, lub-pause, dub-dub. There it was. The skip, small, but unmistakable. It didn't scare me. It humbled me. For so long, I'd seen the heart as an obedient machine pump in, pump out, keep time. But it isn't a machine. It's a living metronome, influenced by everything we do, think, feel, and fear. That morning, I realized something I'd forgotten to teach. The rhythm of the heart is the rhythm of life itself. When you rush one, you disturb the other. The 1%, those calm, steady souls who live long and age gracefully, they understand that instinctively. They don't chase speed. They don't fill every silence. They sleep when the sun sets, walk when it rises, sip tea instead of coffee, breathe instead of hurrying. They've learned the language of rhythm, and they treat it like music. Most of us, though, spend our lives playing out of tune, trying to catch up to a tempo we set ourselves. I took a slow breath, exhaled, and decided no more strong coffee. No more late nights pretending to be invincible. No more mistaking busyness for purpose. I poured the rest of the coffee down the sink. It swirled dark and glossy, disappearing like a small surrender. The heartbeat steadied, faintly. Maybe it was in my mind, maybe not. But I felt calmer, as if the body had heard the decision before the brain had finished making it. Sometimes the heart doesn't need medicine. It just needs permission to rest. I leaned against the counter and smiled at the quiet, no more ticking clock, no more stuttering, rhythm, just stillness. The kind that feels earned. I walked to the window, drew the curtains open, and watched the morning begin, its slow dance, outside light spilling across the lawn. A bird taking flight, the first breeze brushing the trees. The world keeps its own rhythm, steady and forgiving. I lifted my hand to my chest, feeling the beat beneath my fingers. Not perfect, bu patient. And I whispered to it, the way you might speak to an old friend who's been waiting too long to be heard. It's all right. I'm listening now. The heartbeat answered, slow and steady, like a promise being kept. And that's how the day began, with silence, surrender, and one small beat finding its way back into time. The rhythm didn't stay perfect. It rarely does. A few hours later, I felt it again, a faint flutter just below the sternum, quick and uncertain, like a small bird trapped behind glass. Not painful, just noticeable. That's the strange thing about age. You start to hear your body the way you once listened to rain background noise at first. Then, an entire language, if you stay quiet long enough. That afternoon, I sat by the window with a glass of water instead of coffee. The sunlight flickered through the blinds, forming soft stripes across the table. I tapped my fingers against the wood, following the beat of my pulse, uneven, but present. For the first time in years, I wasn't frustrated by it. I was curious. I remembered how many times I'd sat across from someone describing the same sensation. It feels like my heart skips a step. Doc. Sometimes it races for no reason. Sometimes it's just fluttering. And I, in my white coat, would nod, ask questions, run tests, reassure them. We'll keep an eye on it. I'd say, you're okay. Just watch your caffeine. Get some rest. But what I never said, maybe because I didn't understand it yet, was that what they were really describing wasn't fear of dying. It was fear of losing rhythm, of waking up one morning and realizing that the song of their life had started to stumble. I think of one man in particular, Robert. He was 72, a widower, cute, polite. He came to me one summer because his heart raced every night before bed. He swore it wasn't physical. It's just, my mind won't stop. He told me. I lie there thinking, and my heart picks up the tempo. He'd lost his wife a few months earlier. Loneliness, grief, and sleepless nights had tangled together into a kind of invisible storm. His EKG showed only mild irregularities, nothing serious, but his eyes told another story. So I gave him 2 prescriptions, one for his mild arrhythmia and one for something I called the quiet hour. I told him to turn off every light in the house after dinner. No television, no news, just a lamp and a cup of chamomile tea. Sit in silence. Listen to your breath. Let your heartbeat catch its breath, too. He followed it faithfully. 6 weeks later, he came back with a small smile and said, "You know, Doc, I think my heart just wanted company." That stayed with me. The simplicity of it. How many of us try to fix the heart by controlling it, when what it really needs is attention, rhythm, peace? I've seen it in women too, like Eleanor, a retired teacher whose heart raced every morning before sunrise. She wasn't anxious. She said, just restless. We ran all the tests, all normal. Until one day, she told me she'd been drinking 3 cups of coffee before breakfast because she liked the feeling of being awake. It wasn't caffeine she needed. It was a reason to wake up slowly. I asked her to replace the first cup with a walk. Just 10 minutes outside, in the quiet light of morning. Walk before you drink. I told her, let your heart learn the rhythm of the world before it learns the rhythm of caffeine. Months later, she sent me a card, a watercolor painting of a sunrise. On the back, she'd written, "The mornings are slower now. My heart and I walk together." Stories like theirs make you realize something that medicine alone can't teach, that not every irregular heartbeat is about biology. Sometimes it's about the life we're living inside it. We treat stress like it's noise that comes from the outside traffic, deadlines, screens. But stress is really the gap between how fast you're living and how fast your heart wants to go. When that gap widens, rhythm breaks. I learned that lesson the hard way too. In my 60s, when retirement was just a word other people used, I still worked 12-hour days. I told myself I was helping others, but I was really avoiding stillness. One afternoon, I fainted between patient rooms, no warning, no pain, just gone. When I woke, a younger doctor was checking my pulse. Sinus arrhythmia, he said gently. You've been skipping beats. Sire. I remember laughing then, though not because it was funny. I just couldn't believe the irony. All those years telling people to slow down, and I had run myself out of rhythm. It took me months to understand what that pause really meant. It wasn't weakness. It was a message. My heart wasn't giving up. It was asking for a truce. The 1%, those calm-hearted elders I've met over the decades, they live differently. They move slower, not because they can't hurry, but because they choose not to. They treat quiet like medicine, sleep like prayer, and breath like conversation. There's an old woman named Rose I still think about. 91, sharp as ever, never missed an appointment. I once asked her the secret to her calm heart. She smiled, pointed to the window, and said, "Birds, birds." I asked, "Every morning." "I watch them," she said. 5 minutes. No words, no plans, just the sound of them. My heart copies the rhythm of wings. It sounds simple, maybe even silly, but her pulse was steady. Her blood pressure, near perfect. Her breathing deep and slow. I think about her often now, especially in moments when my own heart forgets how to keep time. I've come to believe that calm hearts are taught, not born. They learn through repetition, through the daily practice of slowing down when the world speeds up. That's what I try to do now. I've stopped watching late-night news. I keep my coffee cup smaller, my bedtime earlier, my evenings kidder. I listen for the rhythm under the noise, not the perfect one, but the steady one, because peace doesn't come when the heart beats flawlessly. It comes when you stop fighting its imperfections. Outside my window, the afternoon drifts toward dusk. I can hear the soft rumble of a passing car, the distant hum of someone mowing a lawn. Each sound folds into the next, forming a kind of natural metronome. My own heartbeat has settled again, not perfectly, but enough. And maybe that's the real measure of health at this age. Not perfection, but partnership. I stand, stretch my shoulders, and walk to the kitchen. The old kettle sits waiting on the stove. This time, I fill it with water for tea instead of coffee. Chamomile, Like I once told Robert, as the water warms, I feel the familiar pulse in my wrist, steady under the skin, and smile. Not because it's flawless, but because it's mine still trying, still finding its rhythm after all these years. I pour the tea, let it steep, and whisper to no one in particular, "It's all right. We'll keep time together." And for the first time all day, the room feels perfectly in sync. Steam rises, the air settles, and somewhere deep inside, the heart keeps its quiet promise. One beat, one pause, one breath at a time. Night has a way of revealing what the day hides. When the noise fades, when the light softens, the body finally speaks its quiet truths. The house is still now. The clock on the wall ticks its soft rhythm, tick, 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 and somewhere underneath it, my heart answers, thump, 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 slower, calmer, almost in sync. I sit in the old chair by the window, the one that leans a little to the right, and watch the reflection of the moon shimmer on the glass. It's the same window where I used to stay awake reading medical journals until my eyes burned. Now, it's where I practice stillness. It took me 85 years to understand that sleep isn't just rest, it's rehearsal for peace. When you learn to slow your heart before bed, you teach it how to trust again, how to let go of the day's chaos, the caffeine, the worry, the static of unfinished thoughts. I used to fall asleep to the sound of hospital monitors, the endless chorus of beeping machines keeping time for other people's hearts. I thought that was living, staying alert, staying busy, staying useful. But the older I get, the more I realize that the true work of life is to learn how to stop, how to trust silence, without mistaking it for emptiness. I take a deep breath, slow and deliberate. In for 4, hold for 7, out for 8. The air moves like a tide, gentle, obedient. My pulse follows its rhythm, a duet of breath and beat. Some nights, I still feel it skip, a soft misstep in the dance, but I no longer flinch. The body, like music, was never meant to be perfect. It was meant to be felt. I think of Robert and Eleanor and Rose. Their faces drift through my mind like old photographs. I remember the tremor in their voices when they first spoke of their fluttering hearts, the relief in their eyes when rhythm returned. They taught me more than any textbook ever could. They taught me that calm doesn't come from control. It comes from compassion, especially for the body that's carried you this far. There's a kind of mercy in that realization. You stop demanding performance and start offering patience. You stop chasing energy and start protecting peace. The 1%, those quiet, steady souls, they live this truth every day. They drink tea instead of adrenaline. They breathe before reacting. They turn off the television before bed, not because someone told them to, but because they've learned that nothing good ever comes from sleeping beside chaos. Their secret isn't discipline. It's tenderness. They speak kindly to their own hearts. They listen when it stumbles. They rest when it asks, and so do I now. I reach over and turn off the small lamp beside me. The room softens into half dark. Only the glow of the moon left to keep me company. The heartbeat grows quieter in the stillness, blending with the sound of the clock, until the two become indistinguishable. One rhythm, one life. For a long time, I just sit there, breathing. No television, no caffeine, no thoughts of the next morning's obligations. Just presence, just gratitude. The kind of peace that doesn't need proof. I think about how strange it is that we spend so much of life chasing excitement when what the heart really wants is calm. Excitement burns. Calm endures. The difference between those two, that's where longevity lives. I smile, close my eyes, and whisper to the quiet room, "Easy now. We've made it through another day." The pulse beneath my skin slows, steady as tidewater. If you listen closely enough, you can hear your body forgive you. That's what tonight feels like, forgiveness. For every cup of coffee I drank too late, every night I stayed awake, chasing something that could have waited until morning, every time I forgot that my heart was doing its best. It's a remarkable thing, forgiveness. How it changes rhythm. Before I sleep, I take one more breath in through the nose, hold, out through the mouth, and place a hand over my chest. The warmth beneath my palm feels alive, steady, human. Good night, old friend. I whisper, thank you for staying. And somewhere beneath that, my heart answers. Thump, 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 calm, even, certain. The clock ticks along with it. Two rhythms becoming one, time and heart, finally in conversation again. Tomorrow morning, I'll wake early. I'll drink water first. Step outside. Let the dawn light fall across my face. I'll listen not for perfection, but for peace. That's what the 1% know. The secret isn't keeping the heart young. It's keeping it gentle. The 1% protect their rhythm by protecting their peace. They trade caffeine for calm. They respect sleep as medicine. They breathe before reacting, rest before breaking. They know that the heart listens to how you live. Slow down before it asks you to. Breathe deeply. Sleep softly. Forgive yourself often. Because every calm heartbeat is proof that life, in its quiet way, still believes in you.